Yeah, so the first one is time. Um, I think the key thing with time is, how do you be more efficient with your time and doing sales outreach? Um, this, going on LinkedIn, I think some people are like, oh man, is this going to take me, 3, 4 hours of my day every day? So the question is always around timing. That's the first problem I think you address. And the way I do it, at least from the outreach perspective, is I use a tool to sort of automate the outreach. Uh, but I don't do it just randomly. I use Sales Navigator. I get very, very specific with who I'm targeting, um, and I don't abuse it. I don't go over the limits that will flag your account. So I make very sparing use of that. Then I also do the direct outreach without automation. But I think you just have to be very. I think in dealing with the time component is just make sure you're very targeted and then you're not being too broad. And then make use of some tools that you can to at least automate the outreach, so you're not cut and paste the same um, message to everyone. You want to be customized with it, and then you also want to do very customized messages outside of the automation. So it's a kind of a combination of both.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then obviously whatever you're doing, and this is one thing that I get into a lot, is how do we actually ensure the leads coming from LinkedIn are high quality and and at least qualified enough to engage with, right? So if you're reaching out to people, whether it's manually or in some sort of automated fashion, um, you know, starting with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, as I said, that's a great way to kind of top level, narrow your focus. And then you start narrowing your focus when you start doing the messaging. You want to start out high level, connect with them, start understanding them, start building the relationship, start building trust and rapport. And then you don't get down into actually even talking anything about you or what you do until they actually ask, or if they look at your profile naturally. I think when somebody starts a dialogue with you on LinkedIn, they're going to look at your profile. And I think you want to have some questions, like problem questions in there. Yeah.
For the
So
leads, yeah.
the question of reliability is just how to build a stream, a good steady stream of B2B leads that will consistently fill that pipeline. Um, and this is always, I think, uh, difficult in for some companies that aren't really on LinkedIn or haven't even done anything on LinkedIn. They're just kind of starting from scratch, and maybe they are experiencing some difficulties in the other ways that they've been generating leads before. So I had a couple clients this year that obviously were getting most of their leads prior to March from trade shows and conferences and such. And then when that got shut down, they're like, oh crap, where do we go to get our leads? And so
Yeah.
I started helping them with LinkedIn ads first, and then integrated some of the direct outreach programs to kind of keep that steady flow. You
Yeah.
want to constantly be, and some companies will have the budget to hire SDRs, will kind of just go at it every day and kind of constantly cold calling and emailing and going on LinkedIn. But many different tactics here, but I think the one that I focus on obviously is the direct outreach, and then sometimes augmenting with content and ads where appropriate. And then obviously at the high level here, what we're trying to do is just get your presence and reach, like Tony was talking about before. It's all about your brand, getting awareness of yourself, your product or service through LinkedIn. And what I like to do here is, my saying is, always focus on problems, not products.
Yeah.
When it comes to that whole issue of what to say, how to say it, whether it's through a message or an invite request or the content that you're actually creating to post on LinkedIn, always start in your mind with knowing your customer, knowing your prospects and what problems they're going through on a day-to-day basis. What are their challenges? What are their issues? And then develop content around that. Even if it's something real simple, a quick post, or the content you share, or original content you create from a blog post or a video, whatever it is, make sure it ties back to something that your prospect is sort of dealing with. Usually it's a problem that they're trying to solve, or even how-to things like how to use Sales Navigator, how to optimize your profile, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously with volume, we want quality, but we also want volume. How do we ensure we get that volume? Um, and I've seen this happen. I've experienced this myself, and from my clients, where sometimes I get too many leads, and that's also a problem, because now what's happening is everybody wants to get on the phone with you, and then you got all these meetings booked up, but then you get too many meetings, sometimes with the wrong people, or those that aren't necessarily qualified. So it's kind of like turning the knobs of quality and quantity here, as far as like making sure you're asking the right questions in your dialogue. Make sure you're using Sales Navigator, and even making use of a little tip here. Use the Boolean expression in the keyword field if you're using Sales Navigator, and use like quotes around words to really find keywords that are in those people's profiles. So don't just based on the different filters that you can use, but also use the keywords so you can narrow that more. And that'll give you a little less volume, but more quality. So that's just a little tip there.
Your next